this breaks anything. Can you still hear me? He hasn't got the headphones on.
Right. I'm ready. This is weird. I can't hear myself, but I can hear you. So that is all good. I'm recording for sure. So that's cool.
All the technical difficulties. It wouldn't be a functions episode without technical difficulties.
Exactly. I can hear myself now. There you go.
It's been a while since we've done one of these. What?
Oh, it's been a little while, yeah.
3
How
months?
Long? Really?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
I've done 2 podcast recordings, well, technically 1.5 podcast recordings since then, and none of them have even come close to coming out at the moment. So I apologize to everyone who follows Press Red, and nothing's happened. We took a bit of a break with functions for a little bit for the fact that I wanted to reorganize it and have it more entertaining to the listeners. So we're going to test out a few things over the next couple of episodes and see how that runs. Eli has no idea what I've done to the script or anything because I haven't had the time to tell him. Have you heard of a company called Framework? I believe I must have talked about them at some point to you.
I think we have.
They do the
laptops. Let me see. And you can take all the parts out.
Yeah, exactly. So they had an event recently and I happened to catch it towards the more exciting part of it specifically.
Yeah.
They've now released these desktop computers that I think might be my next PC. It's just really good. It's these, what are they called?
AMD.
They've teamed up with AMD to bring the chips that were announced at the American event. I've also forgotten the name of, but we're not going to spend the time to figure that one out. To bring these really powerful computers, and they're pretty much just a server computer at this point. Sorry, an AI computer. The opposite of what people want, but it's got so much power that you could do so much with it. Okay. For me, I'd buy it to play games. My computer's running out of the games you can actually play at this point. It's out of date by that much. So it'd be nice to be able to run those. They seem expensive at first, but they are the top of the line, really good computers.
How much?
So the computer I'm looking at getting spec'd out is the lower end one, the mid range. So it's about 1,600. Okay. That is not too bad. What do you get for that? You get 64 gigs of RAM, 4 cores GPU. I don't remember how many you get CPU. 40
graphics cores, is this the one?
Yeah, that's the one. Okay. I'm not getting any storage. I'm not getting any bonus storage, and I'm not going to have an OS on it. That's how I got the price down so much. Okay. So they've got batches. What does that mean? Sold out. Oh, so that's their, okay. Oh, so they're selling out, and that's their kind of allotment of shippings. Yeah. So they're popular. Yes. Yeah, this is perhaps the first time that they've gone into the desktop world, which is kind of funny because desktop computers on their own can be customized. But this is a more entry-level customization for those people who want a small computer but still want to be able to have these computers be accessible to anyone. And they're aesthetically customizable too, by the looks of it. They seem quite cool. Very entertaining. I imagine they'd be good for kids, but also at the same time, they are very expensive for kids. Yeah. The thing for kids is the Framework 12, which is their new laptop that's coming out. I see. I'm looking at that now. That seems amazing. And I can see so many people wanting to buy that. And education-wise, it seems absolutely perfect. What do they run? So they run Windows? They run Windows, Linux, not Mac OS, obviously, because that's locked down to Apple. It's kind of it, Windows and Linux. You can run whatever you want on it, technically. Yeah. Okay. They look cool. I like the way you can swap out the USB ports and, everything's on that. You don't need special screwdrivers or anything like that. It looks quite simple to access. Yeah. The thing they worked on for the Framework 12 is they wanted it to be for education as well as other things. So it's got a touch screen. It's incredibly cheap to produce. And it has a child lock only accessible by maintenance. The funny thing about that is if that was in my school, the school that I went to, the kids would be stealing the parts. They'd be taking those components out. Oh, nice little USB-C port. That's why you can lock them in to the device themselves so people can't take them out. I like that. I'm not sold, but I like it. Now, if Apple done something like that, I might be interested. Apple would never do anything like that because all the parts of it are replaceable. I was just looking at how their
keyboard is put together for the latest computers, the M1 to the M4 range. And I didn't realize that instead of having screws or anything, the keyboard is riveted to the front.
Wow, with probably like 1,000 rivets.
It's, yes, a lot in between each key.
Okay.
I don't understand why they've done this.
I guess their argument would be you get sturdier bed or something along those lines, right?
Yeah.
I just want a replaceable battery back again.
That would be great. I forgot about that. I
detachable battery, should I say.
Although I used to be a real pain in the ass, especially in high school. Anyone that they were typing up their work, I'd just remove the battery from the back of their thing. Did that many times. That
was a bit of a problem, but that type of access is definitely needed. But I'm afraid to say most people probably don't care anymore. We're so trained to just throw away and get another that it's almost a bit of hassle to have to replace bits ourselves.
The last thing to mention from the framework is they didn't mention much from the framework 16, which is their biggest laptop that can have a GPU in it that's also replaceable. They have only announced that they are going to allow you to do custom keyboards, meaning that you can buy the individual keys and set it up the way that you want your keyboard to be.
That's cool.
That is cool, especially for, let's say, if I was running a live stream, I could have a live stream set up just on my computer.
I mean, that could be really good for people doing specialist anything, like musicians, editors, you name it, Photoshop users. I like that. It doesn't look very pretty though, does it?
No, agreed. I don't think the 16 for me is what I like. I don't mind the 13, I think. That one's okay. It's because it's kind of got that metal design as well. It's nice. It's something I would possibly buy, but the problem is I fell in love with macOS again, and I cannot live without macOS. Windows, I could put in the bin. I don't want it. In fact, that is my plan. As soon as I get rid of this PC, I'm not going back to Windows for as long as possible.
Not even for gaming, though. I mean, you can't beat Windows for gaming. You just can't.
From using the Steam Deck for the last couple of months while I've been at uni, that's all I've had.
Yeah.
And I'm very much happy with it. I can use that to play most of the games. The only game I can't play is Rainbow Six Siege, and it's kind of a good excuse to not play Rainbow Six Siege. Everything else, and plus my usage of games has decreased a lot while I'm at uni. I'm mostly focusing on work, so having a casual machine to just play games every so often is probably my target.
Yeah, you got to focus on life now.
Yes.
Yeah, I hear that.
Have you seen the Sigma BF?
No. Yes. Okay, so Sigma BF is the camera with no removable storage and about 2 buttons.
Yes.
Yeah, I saw it. I don't like it.
You don't like it?
No, not at all.
I'm torn on it. Storage-wise, that is quite annoying, but at the same time, it's enough storage that you don't have to worry about it, and it's obviously not targeted towards videographers or anyone doing video work. Who's
it for?
Photographers.
To me, it feels like it's for somebody's old relative who used to be a photographer and appreciates hardware and just wants something they're going to take 2 pictures on every so often. The grandkids' birthdays, maybe.
You mean like the Fuji films that I inherited from my granddad?
Yeah, it's got to be who it's for. I mean, do real photographers want something like that? It looks great, and it probably feels like a well-built camera, but it looks like shift button hell. And I haven't actually looked how it functions, but it must be with...
I've heard a lot of complaints about its UI specifically, saying it's not a very good UI. I would have to try it to give my own opinion, and there's no chance I'm getting that. I don't think there's even a Sigma store in the UK. I don't have a clue about that, though. I think it's a beautiful looking thing, but practically inept. It's not got any uses for me specifically. I will say, I think it looks like it was designed by Apple, and if Apple made a camera, that's probably what you would get, is this with...
Where did Johnny Ive go? Do we know? Is he there?
Apart from the fact he's got his own company, it wouldn't surprise me if he was hiding in Sigma.
Yeah, he's in the basement somewhere giving notes.
I do think it looks a lot like the iPod to me, which I know is a bit of a weird thing to say, but if you hold the camera on its side with just that dial and the screen, it's an iPod.
It could definitely be an iPod, yeah. I'd love to see one, don't get me wrong, and I'd love to test it out and show it off, but beyond that,
Nah.
Give me some rugged buttons and some functionality. What mount does it have on it?
Oh, it's L mount, I think. So that's Panasonic and all that.
Yeah. Okay.
Right. I will say my favorite thing of it isn't actually the camera itself, but the lenses for that camera are just beautiful.
I'll have to check it out. He's still in the market for a new camera then?
Yeah, still waiting to get a new camera, but I have a new thing I got to get first, which we'll discuss in a sec.
Okay. You should call that section New Toys.
Yeah. I have the most exciting bit of news just for me, the nerdy person who loves e-ink. Pebble is going to come back, and I'm so excited about this.
Okay.
Because it means I can get rid of my Nothing watch or the CMF watch or whatever it's called and jump on the Pebble train and not have to charge my watch for weeks on end. I'd be so happy.
Okay. Is it going to be chunky and square like the old one?
Probably.
Like an iPad on your wrist.
We'll have to see and wait, because I thought that had the best UI for what I needed to do. All I want my watch to do is tell me how much I've moved, tell me off, and give me notifications. Oh, and tell the time.
Yeah. I mean, how often would it refresh? Because I've had this Apple Watch for a couple of years now, and having the always on display really helps when I'm exercising and being able to count with the face, but still see the seconds, not milliseconds. I think I would need that as a minimum.
So the last watches weren't actually e-ink. They were LCD without a backlight on them.
Okay.
With just a reflective backlight. Exactly the same as a Game Boy is how it worked. Yeah. It was a Game Boy on your arm. But those things lasted such a long time for the very fact that they didn't have a lot of processes happening at the time, and no power was being used up by the screen. A limited amount of power was being used up by the screen. E-ink has got better. I don't feel like the new Pebbles will be going with the e-ink route still. But it depends, really. We have no idea. Literally, the guy who made a website and said it's coming back, and that's all we know.
Oh, well, all 3 customers are going to be happy, aren't they?
4.
What else did they have? They had a tablet, didn't they, Pebble?
No, it was just the watches. It was the Pebble,
Are you sure?
The Pebble Time, and the Pebble 2. Oh, no, Pebble 2 never came out. That's when it got brought by Fitbit, which was then brought by Google.
Not the Pebble Gear. That's not them, is it? Okay, forget it.
Don't know.
Pebble Quad Pro. No, it's not them. There's been so many come and go. It kind of, Samsung, Apple, Huawei, they've stood the test of time, haven't they, really, with their hardware. I remember LG was a big player once upon a time. Sony comes and goes, but never really stays. It's just such a difficult journey for these hardware manufacturers to stay when everyone makes the same product, essentially, in every category.
Yeah. And that's why all these companies are struggling to get people to buy the phones at the moment.
Yeah.
This is such a good topic that we will definitely be coming back to in this episode later on. But I want to bring up one more thing.
Okay.
Have you been watching Severance?
Of course I've been watching Severance. I am Severance's #1 fan. What do you think?
I think Severance is still my second favorite series on Apple TV. I still really like Silo. I think that's my favorite.
Silo season 2 was a letdown.
It was all right. I still like Silo more. Because there's more of a mystery to me. There's stuff I'm trying to figure out still in Silo.
Yeah.
But with Severance, it's just weird and wacky to the point that I don't see the point of trying to figure out what's going on and just instead sitting there and watching what's happening.
It's broken a few records, right, in terms of minutes.
Yeah.
Minutes watched for Apple's doing really well. It's interesting that something so niche is doing so well and taking over Ted Lasso, which is really accessible to everybody. I'm really enjoying it alongside the podcast. Have you been listening to the official podcast?
I have not been listening to the official podcast.
So the official podcast is, because Ben Stiller produces it, right? And he's very much a hands-on producer. And Adam Scott, the lead, they both present it. And every week they have someone from the crew or someone from the cast on and talk about the making of that episode in particular. So they just had the DP for episode 7. I forget her name now, but she directed her first ever thing. And that was the last episode where we saw all the flashback heavy super transitional episode was her first ever thing she's directed. So it was really interesting to hear her struggles of trying to DP and direct at the same time and having to then give some of that work away. I don't know if you paid much attention to the transitions between the timelines and how they were doing these overlays with people's faces and reactions to different things. And they got into a lot of depth of the thinking and the planning behind that. So I recommend a podcast after every episode. It's great.
I have been really enjoying this season, but I have to say the last episode 7, is my favorite episode of the 2 seasons so far.
Yeah.
It was so good. And I just kept nerding out at all these shots, and they were so complex to try and figure out how they were filmed.
So technical.
Yeah.
And some of the things they've done I'm looking at it like, okay, they cheated there. But it's when you listen to the podcast, so that the one shot where they go from the lady, I forget her name, and they go down through the console and you follow the cable down. Yeah. That's in camera.
I know. I found that out afterwards. I was blown away to find out.
And they described how they'd done it, and I was like, didn't even consider it because we're so used to being cheated that I didn't even think about it. I thought, oh yeah, there's a cheap little kind of CGI shot. No.
Every scene of this series has been really good. I have to say I prefer season 2 to season 1 at the moment for me. Because I'm nerding out more. I'm seeing all these shots that I really enjoy looking at. That transition shot with, I've forgotten her name, his wife.
Ellie.
Yeah.
No. Not Megan. They got her name wrong in the last episode, but Mrs. Casey, I'll call her.
Yeah.
But that's not her name in the real world. But
from when she's sat in the sun and then it transitions only on her eyes to that darker scene.
Yeah.
Absolutely amazing. Love that.
Well, I think it's a show that doesn't assume the audience is not going to get it. You know, they don't overdo exposition. I think it's a lot to do with the format as well. They know that you can probably binge the last series and you'll remember, so they're not trying to recap you with every line of dialogue. All the characters most of the characters have strong motivations, and it doesn't feel forced, and it just looks beautiful. So yeah, what more can you ask for? And it's a mystery box show, so we all love
I've been watching a lot of it actually on perhaps the most horrible thing to watch it on, Android, because they pushed the Android app recently, and it's been really good.
Yeah.
But
Apple TV have really got bangers, like top to bottom. Apple TV are amazing, and I don't see how come they're not doing as well as everybody else.
In this family, we've generally discussed multiple times now of just having Apple TV as our only subscription at this point. Because it's the only one we like. Well, that is true, but with how expensive subscriptions are getting and how much we don't actually watch of these subscriptions, it's probably better just to buy the series or episodes out itself. That's what we've been discussing a lot.
Yeah.
One more thing on this topic of Apple TV in general. Have you seen their marketing as well? Because they've been on it. I don't follow the Super Bowl at all, but I've seen multiple screenshots of them just having the people from Silo sat in the audience. They had the New York Times Square where they had them sat in this plastic cube doing work for Severance.
Listen to the podcast. They talk, Adam Sandler, no, I always get him and Ben Stiller mixed up. Ben Stiller talks about how that came across. Just listen to that particular episode. Is really quite interesting in how they what they decided to do, because it's soundproof, so the people couldn't hear what they were talking about.
Oh, really?
And so they were inside improvising for 3 hours. But they were just talking about random stuff or telling each other what they're going to do. But obviously you didn't know. It just looks like they're working. But yeah, really interesting.
I've been blown away. And then they had on the Apple Store, they actually had the computer available on it. It's just, they are nailing it at the moment with all this marketing. And there's so much more to mention, but I can't remember off the top of my head.
Yeah, it doesn't reach me. That's really strange that I would think I'd be the target for Apple marketing, but none of it reaches me. They know I haven't got any money. They can see my bank.
Yeah.
I think that's what it is.
Final topic that I want to talk about, but can you guess what I want to talk about?
You want to talk about Apple's Air Week.
Sort of.
Okay. M3 Ultra. I
didn't notice that until about 2 minutes before we started recording, that Apple had announced the Max, the Air, the MacBook
I know.
Air.
You want to talk about the new nothing phones?
No, because they're bloody ugly.
Okay, well, you beat me. I don't know.
So I have said for a while I have wanted a simple iPhone, and they've just released the iPhone 16e. And
I thought of you straight away. I really did. You hate it.
I like it a lot.
Do you like the price?
The price. My immediate response to the price was a lot of anger, because it's supposed to be a cheap phone and they added features that I don't see as being necessary. The action button, it's fun. A bonus, I would have been happy to have it, but the price being up is not something I wanted. I would rather just have that one display, one screen, 60 hertz refresh rate, and Face ID, I guess. Even though I don't really want Face ID, I do like the button more. They instead brought the satellite communication, which just whoever is buying a cheap phone, why do you need the satellite?
Yeah.
And they had the crash detection. Yes, it's a good bonus, but it's also available on the watch, and actually just on the watch. I was going to say it and the iPhone, but you don't get it. It's weird. I would have preferred a cheaper phone if they just got rid of those features instead. Yeah.
They obviously had to work in the new processor, but then it's kind of not the full fat version of the processor either, is it? The whatever it is, A16 chip?
I think it's A18 now.
A18, Jesus. Look, iPhone 16, A18. Yeah, so they've got the A18, but it's not the same as the A18 in the iPhone 16. It's like a binned version or something like that, right?
It's missing one core.
Yeah.
Which I don't think is a big thing to go on about, really.
No.
It is almost the perfect phone for me. It's so close. I don't mind the modem. I mean, it's an experiment. We'll see how it goes. And I'll miss having shortwave for whatever that does.
Is it true that it doesn't have the charging?
That's what I was going to bring up. Yeah, it's missing MagSafe.
That's crazy.
I know. I don't understand how they can get away with that personally, because that's a feature I was excited to get towards. Because when I left all iOS devices with the iPhone 5, I remember not long after, like 2 years, 3 years later, they brought in the whole MagSafe system.
Yeah.
And I loved it. I thought it was a great idea, and I'm stuck on Android. I don't know what to do. I guess I can just stare at it and wish.
Yeah.
But then the phone I want to come back into the iPhone ecosystem with also doesn't have MagSafe.
It's really strange, right? What's the technical reason for that?
They said that people who want the 16E don't want it. Being one of the rare people who actually wants the 16E, and I know that Marcus Barley did the video where he was saying, like, who is this actually for?
That was a great video. I love the intro to that. He should be acting.
The entire time I'm there going, that is me. I'm the guy who's going, yeah, but I want this and this and this. And it'd be very hard for people to recommend it to me, but generally, I love the idea of the phone. The look of the phone is magnificent to me. I don't mind not having colors because I've only ever had black and white phones. That's it.
Put it in a case.
And I'm going to have to put it in a case, which I didn't want to do, but I'm going to have to get the D brand case or something that has...
So you're getting the phone, it sounds like.
I really want to. I'm trying to convince my dad to help me out with getting it, is the problem. I was going to buy it, pre-order it, but then my dad was talking about EE and how they can provide some stuff for it, so I haven't got it yet.
Okay. Here's a possible solution. So it hasn't got MagSafe, but it has got wireless charging, right?
Yes.
Okay, so my wife is on an iPhone 11. She just bought a MagSafe case for an iPhone 11. It's great.
That's what the D brand case does.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go with that one.
Problem solved.
Yeah. I'm waiting to see if D brand is going to release the nothing skin for the iPhone, because I think it's going to be funny to have a phone that looks like the nothing. Although, those new nothing phones are absolutely hideous.
If you sold your old nothing phone, how much would you get for it?
Probably not much.
No, you meant to say nothing. You just didn't get it.
Damn it. I didn't see that opportunity.
If you sold your old nothing phone, Mac, how much would you expect to get?
Nothing?
Hey! Still try it though.
Yeah. I was thinking of keeping my Nothing phone to put Instagram on it and everything because, my God, is Instagram good at catching me?
What do you mean?
I keep using it at the moment, and I don't want to.
Set yourself screen time. That's what I do.
I did do, and I have that currently active.
Yeah. Mine just reminds me like, oh, it's been half an hour. Okay, I better do something else. I've been on here for half an hour today. On a side note, I was talking with a student last week, Thursday, and she was always on her phone. And I said, look, you've got an actual problem. You're a bit like an addict now, the way you're on your phone. Just check your screen time. She went, I'm only on it for 4 hours a day. Yeah. This was 11:30, so we're just about to go to lunch. She checked her phone at 11:30 in the morning, and she'd already had 8.5 hours of screen time.
Wow.
Averaging 17 hours a day. And most of it is on Instagram and Snapchat. And I just thought, how is that even
17 hours a day?
A day? How's that possible?
I get a maximum of 6 a day. 17?
I don't know how it's possible. Is she, I don't know if it counts when you're listening to music. Like, is she, I just don't know.
Does she sleep?
It's the highest I've ever seen in my life. And yeah, it's scary. So I told her, she's the last person I said to set screen time, and she laughed me out of the room. So there you go. Hey.
I think Instagram is a horrible platform personally, but the only reason why I use it is to do advertisements for transient or my own content. Yeah, 5. See, I think 5 or 6 has got to be the average.
That's up 14%. And that is screen time from my laptop and my phone combined. So.
Oh, didn't know it did that.
Yeah. You can turn it on or off. You can join them or not. Oh, got a new toy?
Oh.
Are we doing new toys?
Yeah, go ahead.
You're going to laugh at this one. For one, what's the point? They're quite affordable. It was like 450 quid I got it for, so. Sorry. I thought, well, am I really going to want all of my shots? Yeah, I am. I'm going to ISO.
As soon as I got the one I've got, I realized all the limitations and knew that I should have gone for the higher end one. So
there are only 2 now, though, right? They used to be 3, and they kind of narrowed it down to 2, and the ISO is just the 4, what used to be the 4, right?
Yeah,
it's cool. It's great. I plan to do a couple of live streams with it, so I'll let you know how it goes. I've actually just been using it really for just ripping my DVDs and stuff through it, just the HDMI at the moment.
Apart from that live event, I still haven't used it for any other. I haven't actually used it as a switcher yet. It's still just been one camera the entire time.
Yeah, I ran mine the other day. When I got it, I set it up. I have 4 cameras going. So I took a couple of Sonys from work, actual camcorders with 1080p HDMI. Oh my God, they look amazing going through this thing. And my 2 Sonys, and then ran my Rodecaster through it as well. And then plugged in, what was the separate input? Oh yeah, and I plugged in a tape machine through the other input, and I just got everything running at once.
Have you been using it for Where the Keys At then?
No. So that's the plan. It is like Where the Keys At is going to start being live switched eventually. My only gripe is that it is limited. I mean, it's cheap, but it's limited to 1080p. And as far as I can tell, you can't resize your shots in the software, like by cropping and whatnot, unless you know a way. Because if it had 4K and it had that, and I could make lots more shots than what I've got, it would be amazing.
I'm not aware of that at the moment.
There's always a software.
I mean, the Rodecaster one might do it, but I'm not sure because that only does 1080 as well.
Yeah, you've got to spend big money to get into 4K, really. Bigger money.
I don't actually have anything else to talk about. We went through stuff incredibly quickly. But that was actually one of the things I wanted to do with this podcast, which was shorten it down.
Yeah.
Because we do talk for a while about specific subjects and we go off on tangents. And I still want us to
pick out the best bits.
Yeah, I still want us to go on those tangents, but I still feel like I want the people to be listening to it for as short amount as possible. It's hard to get those listening times up. I look at sometimes the Where the Keys At, and we get I tried to make the episodes an hour, half an hour. We normally record for 2 hours, believe it or not, and I'm always cutting it down to like half an hour, and the listening time is always 11 to 13 minutes average, which apparently is good. To me, that is terrible. I really want to get 60%, 70%, but
People just don't.
An excessive editor when it comes to this podcast. I remove a lot of background noise. I sit there for ages manually tweaking stuff. I spend far too long to then put an episode out and that's it. And not get very many views or anything through that. Mm-hmm. But if you guys want to listen to it, please go and share it with other people. It's always useful having that. Actually, I can tell you one more thing that you'll be happy about.
Go for it.
This episode that we're recording is going to be my first episode I'm not recording on DaVinci. I was not editing on DaVinci.
Okay. Are you going to be using Logic, Audition, Audacity?
So I'll be using Audacity because I got access to it recently. Oh, no, so not Audacity. Ableton Live I will be using to try and edit it.
Oh, right. Okay.
And the next episode I want to test in Luna, Luna.
Have you got hardware for Luna?
No.
I didn't know you could use Luna without Apollo hardware.
It's a new thing they're trying out. It's been free for about 2 years, and it's been available on Mac OS even longer, but I'm going to test it out just to see what is the best way I can edit these episodes at this point.
Yeah, Luna is very much probably overkill to edit a podcast, but it is sweet. I had it when I used to have Apollo hardware, and when they first released it, I got it. And just the circuitry, the digital circuitry, the design of it really feels like hardware, and it really feels like an alternative to Pro Tools, which was, the great audio editing door of its time. So yeah, I look forward to hearing your thoughts.
I brought their DAC recently. Not the reason why I got access to it. I actually got it before that. But that's why I also wanted to get Hijack to do this, is because I want to stop using the Rodecaster as much as possible and have it simplified. I went to the point where I overcomplicated everything, and now I want it just to be, I sit at a desk and I start recording.
You did not overcomplicate anything, Mac. I've never heard of that before. Never seen you with a bunch of screens and hardware for one camera on a stream in my life.
I don't know how to respond. I overcomplicate a lot of things. You should see most of my desk setups.
Really? I say that, but I'm sitting here on a Rodecaster. I've got a laptop and a phone and another computer on just to do a stream.
I got one computer on, because if I turn the other one on, it will be too loud.
Do you know what? I think this summer I'm going to go to M4 Mac Mini.
Are you really? Not the new Mac Studio that just came out?
No, I don't need that kind of power. But M4 Mac Mini, because what I'm finding is, even on my old M1 laptop, in terms of editing power, I can really tell the difference. I've been doing a lot of editing on this M1 just from the archiving that I'm doing, and it just doesn't handle it very well. As soon as I start doing a bit of color correction and I've got more than one thing going on.
Because when that chip came out, that was incredibly powerful. We were wowed by it. And only, 4-5 years later?
Yeah, 4.5 years.
It's already now not the most powerful thing out there.
Because I think what happens is, we know what happens is software developers start trying to use that power, and they start doing more things with their software. And all of a sudden, the software that could run on this lightweight thing that was struggling still struggles on something more powerful. Got to keep up with the times.
Or stay a little bit behind and save your money a little bit.
Credit. You're at uni now, you're 18, go get credit. And no, I did not give you bad advice. Save up.
Actually, we're doing quite well with my money at the moment. I'm surprised by that.
One of the biggest tests of uni, isn't it, to not get in debt? So many people leave uni and they're ruined for the next 15 years because they got a student loan plus a grant which they spent, plus they got the overdraft, which they have to pay back as soon as you're no longer a student. And it just spirals.
On that happy tone, should we end the episode?
Yeah, let's do it.
You can check out Eli's work on his socials or on his podcast, Where the Key's At. To follow me, I am at MacBlatt on mastodon.uk. This episode is edited by me, Matt Blackman. Thank you for listening to this episode of Functions, and we'll see you in the next one.
See ya.